Your phone buzzes. One notification. That's all it takes. Before you even read the words, your chest tightens. Your stomach drops. Somewhere between the buzz and the glance down, your body has already decided this might be bad. You haven't even opened it yet. Why does a single vibration do that to you? 50,000 years ago, a very different alert reached a very different brain. Picture it. Tall grass, waist high, moving slightly against the wind. A shadow crossing where nothing should be crossing. A smell on the air that doesn't belong to anything you recognize. The human standing in that grass didn't stop to analyze it. There wasn't time. Their heart rate spiked before their mind even understood why. Muscles tensed. Breath shortened. Every system in the body pointed toward a single goal. Survive the next 10 seconds. Think later. Survive first. That reaction wasn't a flaw. It was the entire point. It didn't need to be right every single time. It only needed to be fast enough, often enough, to keep that person alive long enough to pass the same jumpy, oversensitive wiring onto you. Anyone who calmly evaluated whether the shadow was probably nothing ran a real risk of becoming dinner. Anyone who reacted first and asked questions later got to see tomorrow. Over hundreds of thousands of years, that second kind of person is who you descended from. Every one of your ancestors, all the way back, survived long enough to have children partly because their alarm system was a little too sensitive, not a little too calm. So your brain built a rule long before you were born. When in doubt, assume danger. Better to flinch at a stick that looks like a snake than to ignore a snake that looks like a stick. That rule still runs today, every hour, in your pocket. Except the grass is gone. The shadows are gone. What's left is a small glowing rectangle that delivers something that looks a lot like danger, dozens of times a day, with none of the actual danger attached to it. A red notification bubble. A message that just says, "We need to talk." A missed call from a number you don't recognize. A headline with the word "warning" in it. An email from your boss sent at 11 p.m. with no subject line at all. Your brain doesn't pause to check whether any of this is actually life-threatening before it reacts. It can't. That kind of checking happens in a slower, newer part of your mind. The alarm itself fires first in an older structure called the amygdala. And neuroscientist Joseph Ledoux spent years mapping exactly how fast that pathway is. Signals can reach the amygdala and trigger a full-body response in milliseconds, taking a shortcut straight past the thoughtful, reasoning part of your brain. That's why knowing the truth doesn't always help. You can open the email, see that it's nothing, and still feel your heart pounding for a full minute afterward. Your reasoning caught up. Your body hadn't gotten the memo yet, because by the time the calm, logical part of your brain finishes reading the sentence, the alarm has already gone off, already flooded your system, already done its job. You feel the fear before you even know what you're afraid of, and you keep feeling it for a while after you find out you didn't need to be. This isn't just a feeling, it's a documented pattern. Psychologist Roy Baumeister studied it across relationships, money, memory, and first impressions, and found the same result every time. Bad is stronger than good. One insult outweighs several compliments. A single bad review outlasts 10 good ones in your memory. Baumeister's conclusion was simple. Minds like yours weigh negative information more heavily than positive information, because for most of human history, missing something good cost you a little, while missing something bad could cost you everything. You can actually watch this preference in action. Researchers Mark Trussler and Stuart Soroka tracked people's eyes as they browsed news websites. Beforehand, almost everyone said they wanted more positive stories in their feed. Then the eye tracking data came back. Their eyes went straight for the negative headlines anyway, again and again, even while they insisted they wanted something else. Nobody in that study was lying. Their stated preference and their ancient wiring were simply answering two very different questions. It shows up in your relationships too. An unanswered text after an hour starts to feel like evidence that something is wrong. even when the most likely explanation is that the other person is simply busy. Your mind doesn't reach for the boring explanation first. It reaches for the dangerous one. For most of human history, the boring explanation was rarely the one that got you killed, so your brain never bothered building a strong preference for it. Here's what makes modern life so exhausting. In the world your brain evolved for, a threat had an ending. A predator chased you, or it didn't. Within minutes, either way, it was over. Your body flooded with stress chemicals. You ran or fought or froze, and then, this part matters, your whole system came back down to baseline. Stanford neuroscientist Robert Sapolsky spent decades studying exactly this gap, comparing stressed humans to stressed zebras. A zebra can be sprinting from a lion one moment and grazing peacefully the next. Once the danger passes, its stress response switches off completely, like a tap turning off. Sapolsky's research points to this same unresolved alarm as one reason humans develop ulcers, high blood pressure, and heart disease at rates most wild animals never do. Our bodies were built for short bursts of danger, not for a threat that never fully ends. Your notifications don't pass. You can't outrun an email. You can't fight a headline. There's no clean moment where the threat is officially over because it was never a physical threat to begin with. It was information, and information doesn't resolve the way a chased-off lion does. So the alarm just stays half-lit, all day, every day. You wake up and check your phone before your feet touch the floor. You feel a small jolt at the sight of an unread count before you know a single thing about what's inside it. You scroll through bad news for 20 minutes, feel worse than when you started, and somehow open the app again an hour later anyway. You get a message that says, "Call me when you can," and your mind runs through 10 disaster scenarios before the phone even finishes ringing. You see 3 dots appear under a text, then disappear, then appear again, and some ancient part of you treats that tiny animation like a predator circling just out of sight. Do that every day, for years, and you end up with something your ancestors almost never had to deal with. A threat response with no off switch, constant, low-grade, always-on alertness, quietly wearing down your sleep, your focus, even your immune system over time. You lie in bed replaying a conversation that went fine. You snap at someone you love over something small, because your system is already running hot from 6 other alarms that went off before lunch. You sit down to work and notice 20 minutes later that you haven't actually started because part of your attention is still standing guard, waiting for the next notification. Not because you're broken, not because something is wrong with you, but because the machinery built to protect you from lions is now processing an endless stream of headlines, texts, and red notification bubbles, and it genuinely cannot tell the difference between the two. So what do you actually do with a brain like that? You can't override it completely, and trying usually backfires. What helps is smaller and stranger than that. It's naming the alarm the moment it fires. That tightness in your chest when the phone buzzes isn't a verdict on how bad the news actually is. It's a 50,000-year-old reflex, doing its job a little too early in a world now made of pixels instead of predators. This doesn't mean every alarm is false. Sometimes the email really is bad news. Sometimes the call really does matter. The goal was never to shut the system off completely because a version of you with no alarm at all wouldn't have survived very long either. The goal is just to slow down the half-second between the buzz and the reaction, long enough to ask one simple question before your whole body commits to the emergency. The next time you feel that jolt, you don't have to fight it, and you don't have to believe it completely either. You can just notice it, take one slow breath, and ask yourself, is this an actual lion? Or just a rustle in the grass? That half-second of dread before you unlock your screen isn't weakness. That's an ancient survival system, still faithfully at its post, still scanning the grass for movement, even now, even here, even though the grass hasn't existed for a very long time. Your phone will buzz again tonight. Your chest will still tighten just for a second. But now you'll know exactly what that feeling is. Not proof of danger, just an old alarm ringing in a world it was never built for.